I spent this week writing about 4 leaders who had quietly decided that the people across the table from them were the problem. Blog made the case that they were misreading each other, that what looked like someone being difficult was usually just someone operating in a way that the others had never really learned to read. I can write that lesson. I can stand in front of a room and I can teach it. And today I want to tell you about a time in my own life, far away from any boardroom, when I failed it completely. With a man who had done nothing wrong except for be exactly who he is. You should know something about how I'm built. For most of my life, I've been the one with the answer, the one who moves first and moves loud. When I care about someone, you're going to hear it. When I'm with you, I am very, very vocal about it. It's my current. For a long time, I quietly assumed it was what loyalty looked like. If you were on my side, you should say so. You should show up and make it known where you stood. That assumption sat so deep in me that I never once thought to question it. It took losing one of the most important relationships in my life, and very nearly for good, before I even saw that it was there. A few years ago, a former business partner of mine turned sharply critical of me. It was public and very loud, and it went way further than I was prepared for. At one point, he reached out to a neighbor of mine, a man that I knew very, very well, someone who I had a close personal relationship with and shared a church community with. Oh, and then word came back to me, secondhand, that this neighbor was on this former business partner's side, and I can't fully describe what that did to me. This was someone that I trusted, someone that I had sat beside on Sundays, someone whose opinion of me actually deeply mattered to me. The idea that he had heard all of it and landed against me, it hollowed me out. So I waited for a phone call from him. I waited for him to come find me, to stand up and say the thing that I would have said in a heartbeat if our places had been swapped. I wanted the loud, visible show of support that I would have given him without a second thought, or at least confirmation that he didn't agree with me. And it never came. The silence on his end started to feel like a verdict, and I decided, sitting in that quiet, that the relationship was broken, maybe beyond repair, because a real friend would have said something to me directly, right? Here's what I learned later, and it took me way, way, way too long to learn it. He was never on my partner's side, not for 1 second. What had actually happened was that this man received the information, turned it over, weighed it in the way that he weighs everything, and came to his own subtle conclusion about me. And then he went on with his life. He had no need to perform that conclusion for anyone, and certainly no need to stage a scene to prove where he stood. That's simply who he is. He is a reflective tide. He processes deeply and quietly, and once he's finished, he moves forward without any noise. And I found out much later that this man had quietly been one of my strongest supporters the entire time. In his way. In the only way that was ever going to be true to him. So sit with what I had actually done there. I'd taken a man's loyalty and I graded it against whether he expressed it in my language. He'd given me his support in the form most true to who he is, steady, unspoken, and I had read it as abandonment because it didn't arrive loud. I decided he was wrong for not being me. And that's the very thing I spend my day helping leaders stop doing, and I did it to a friend in the middle of one of the hardest stretches I have ever walked through, at the exact moment where I probably needed him most, while he was actually there the whole time. The part that stays with me is that I didn't understand any of this at the time. Back then, I had no framework for what I was looking at, only the sting of silence that I had read as betrayal. The understanding came years later, and it came, of course, from my grandson, Joseph, who was not even born yet on the day that I decided that neighborhood walked away from me. Joseph experiences the world differently than I do. And in the last couple of years, he has been teaching me that different is a language, not a deficit. I sat in the hallway with that boy and slowly learned to read what he was telling me when there was no words attached to it at all. To stop treating absence of my kind of communication as the absence of communication itself. And only then, with what he had given me, could I look back and finally understand the man that I had misjudged. Joseph gave me the eyes to see what I had been blind to years before he arrived. That's the very thing that these 4 leaders in this week's story could not see in each other. Each of them led from a current. Each of them was certain that the way they saw the business was the way the business actually was. And that everyone else was the deficiency that needed to be corrected. It's so easy to spot when you're standing outside the room. I get that. It's almost invisible when you are inside it, dealing with it, when the other person feels like they've failed you, when their silence or their caution lands on you as a personal verdict about your worth. So here's what I want to leave in your hands this week. Think of the person in your world you have quietly filed under against me or checked out a long time ago. The one whose support never seems to arrive in the form that you're watching for. Before you're sure you have them read correctly, ask yourself whether you have actually read them at all, or whether you have only been waiting for them to speak your language back to you. You may be standing on a relationship far more solid than it feels right now, with someone who's been on your side the whole time, in a current that you simply never learned to read. Now, I'm still learning to read it. I want to be plain about that with you. I did not write a book because I had this finished and mastered. I wrote it because a little boy kept showing me how far I still had to go. The whole of that story and everything that one slow year taught me is in leading like Joseph. It's the deeper water underneath everything that I made this week. And if you're inside Leaders Evolution, it's already sitting in your library as a PDF along with the rest of the Ripple series. It's yours to open tonight if you want it. Now, next week, I move to the second book in the series. It's called Built to Breathe. It's a different lesson that cost me something very different to learn. I'll see you then. And somewhere between now and then, go read the person that you've been so sure about. This is a real chance that they've been standing with you all along.